Good morning, Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo, and the rest of the world. You've tuned in to the Mac City Morning Show. I'm your host, Elliot Pierre, and we're going to start this show off the same way we start every show off, with a moment of gratitude. I know you could be doing a million things with your time, and the fact that you spend it with us truly does mean the world to me, so thank you. On that note, Tanner, hit him with the intro.
Whatty up, boss? Welcome to the Mac City Morning Show.
Hey everybody, Keith Simpson here from Toyota. Just a quick chat about the wonderful community we live in here. As you guys know, we support the Oil Barons. We've joined the drive-in movie theater. We're involved in the marathon here in Fort McMurray, and make sure we're taking care of the kids and all the local businesses, all the local charities, and all the local foundations, guys. That's what makes this community such an amazing place to live.
Whatty up, boss?
Big
Welcome
shout out
to the Mac
Municipal
City.
Toyota, the title sponsor to the show. You just saw their ad with Keith in it. Keith, Fad, Nimmer, all the boys and girls down there. Big shout out for helping us keep doing what we're doing. Thank you, Noral Toyota. On that note, we got a guest today. She's a returning guest, but as you know, I don't introduce my guests because they can do a better job at that than I can do that. So I'll let her just introduce herself and tell us who she is and what she's all about. So, how you doing? Who are you? What you're about?
Hi, everybody. Hello again, I guess. I am Michelle Landsiedel. I am a local resident. Been here since 2006, roughly. Just a community volunteer, community member. I'm an employee of one of the oil and gas companies up here. And it's great timing for me because I am also recently accepted and approved as the candidate for the Alberta Party for the upcoming provincial by-election, which impacts Fort McMurray-Lac-La-Biche ridings. So yeah, I get to add that title to my ever-growing list of things I've tried.
Nice. Okay, so you need to explain that to me because we've had a lot of politicians on the show as of this year, and I know a little bit about politics. That being said, I know less than I actually think I know. So explain to me what this party's about, explain what this process is about, what position are you potentially running for? Yeah.
So provincial, some people may recognize me from the last time I was on the show. I was running for a municipal council seat.
Right.
Obviously, I was not successful in that space, but there was, almost 2,500 people who voted for me, and it was a really phenomenal experience. So I guess I'm anteing up a little bit in the space of potential for public failure, but
I like
super, because why not double down?
Yeah,
right?
that's a good way of looking at it.
But you know what? It's also a good opportunity to just kind of continue that space of responsible citizenship that I talked about so much in my municipal campaigns.
Right.
So, at the provincial level, currently the seat, so Fort McMurray City Centre is represented by two different zones.
Okay.
So the seated MLA for Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo is Tanny Yao, representing the UCP.
Yes.
And the seat that represents Fort McMurray Lac-La-Biche, which is basically like Thickwood South and then south of the river all the way down to Wandering River and into Lac-La-Biche itself,
Okay.
has been vacant since Layla Goodridge resigned her seat to run for the federal MP position.
MP,
after
that's
David
correct.
Yurdega,
Yes.
gave up his seat. So
Right.
the seat's been empty for almost 6 months.
Yeah.
They finally called the election like a week and a half ago.
Right.
Like basically the very last minute that they could call this election.
Yeah.
And so here we are entering for this riding another election
Yeah.
in a very short period of time. So I
Right.
think there's a little bit of probably like voter exhaustion up here. But as much as the municipal election was hugely important,
Yeah.
this provincial space, particularly where we've gone unrepresented for 6 months, and I would say relatively silenced in the legislature for the last couple of years, is going to be super critical and is in such an important time right now as we're leading into the 2023 major election. So I accepted the nomination of the Alberta Party.
Okay.
Which is,
So what's the Alberta Party? Tell me about. I don't know what that is. I know that I only know about. I know you because they came on the show. I know that there's a PPC party. They're purple.
Yeah.
I know that there is the Conservative Party. which I think is Brian Jean. He came on the show, right?
Yeah.
Was he Conservative Party?
You're asking the wrong dude.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of separations in
Okay.
there. So we have federal parties, and in
Okay.
the federal party, you have some of those common names. So your
Oh,
PPC,
right.
your
This is
UCP,
right.
your
And you're
NDP.
nothing. You're an independent when you're running for MLA. In regards to you don't necessarily.
No, your party affiliation is still
Okay.
really, really important. It's just that your federal riding or your federal party can sometimes look really different ideologically than your provincial representation. So,
Okay.
Right now, there's a couple of parties that have announced that they're entering candidates.
Right.
I don't believe that all of the parties have confirmed their candidates yet. So there's
Right.
like a two-part nomination process to become an MLA candidate. One is if you're running on behalf of a party, so not as an independent, but on behalf of a party.
Okay.
There is a party nomination
Okay.
for appointment. So it can be contested or it can be non-contested. So
Okay,
in Brian's
cool.
perspective, or in Brian's situation, for example, he ran for the UCP nomination in this riding. I believe, I'm not sure if Ariana, who's representing the NDP party, if she was appointed or if she had to run for her nomination.
Right.
And for myself, I didn't have to run for my nomination. I was selected as the candidate.
Very cool.
But the
This is
next-
fascinating, by the
Yeah,
way.
it's very convoluted, and it's not surprising that so many people struggle with understanding how politics work, right?
Right.
The politics of, or politicking of politics, I guess. So then the second phase of that nomination process before you can be, I guess, a real candidate or a confirmed candidate is that you have to get your nomination from the riding in which you're running. So there's
Right.
like a minimum of 25 votes from voters who live in the region.
Right.
So for myself, it was anybody south of Thickwood Boulevard out to, Abasan, Beacon Hill, as far out to Sapray Creek is kind of as far as I went for my nominations.
Right.
And then those nominations have to be accepted by the returning officer who is operating on behalf of Elections Alberta. Cool. So once those voters have been confirmed as meeting the requirements of eligible voters and your nomination papers are accepted, you have both the party nomination or your independent status and the riding nomination to be confirmed. So as of the last update that I saw in Elections Alberta, and it changes constantly, so they have until February 25th to get through this process at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
So Brian,
February 25th. Hey, that's my birthday. Whoop, whoop.
well, happy birthday!
Thank
Shout
you.
out Elliot.
Yeah.
Excited. I love birthdays, by the way. Favorite thing. So yeah, the last one that I saw, so Brian Jean won his nomination for the UCP in this riding, and was confirmed with his 25 to however many signatures he got.
Right.
So he is an official candidate for the provincial UCP,
Right.
which is of course the provincial party that is the seated government right now.
Right.
Myself on behalf of the Alberta Party, which we'll talk a little bit about
Yeah,
them.
please. Yeah.
And then the other individual, I believe, was Paul Hinman running on behalf of the Wild Rose Independent Party, I think, which is basically the individuals that are left over from the original Wild Rose before the Wild Rose Progressive Conservative merger that created this UCP.
That's
we
right.
have now.
Okay, cool. Okay, so my next question for you, because when you came for the first time, you were very on point with what your beliefs and policies were. You had a very good, thought process put together, which I really appreciated. Not everybody had that. So I have to assume going into this, you have a thought process of what you would like to accomplish, what you believe in, what you're running on, your platform, basically.
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit about what your platform is for this?
I can to a point.
Okay.
So it's a fun but also very convoluted conversation.
Yeah, great.
So I would say the biggest piece of information or the biggest starting off point that I have is that my position as a provincial candidate is not fundamentally different than my position was as a municipal candidate.
Great. 'Cause I
And
love
it's
what you have
very
to say.
much, well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's very much that this region deserves strong representation, that we're an important part of the Alberta economy, that we are an important part of the political scene, that the people who live and work here are important and deserve the best that can be offered to bring their voices to the people who make decisions.
Yeah.
And so whether that was as a municipal councillor or now in this provincial space, I maintain that message.
Right.
The other thing that's really interesting about this space is that party politics, so at a municipal level, ideological voting doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So it doesn't actually matter if you are somebody who touts yourself as a conservative or as a liberal or
NDP, right.
somewhere in the middle or,
Right.
To the extremes.
Yeah.
At a municipal level, that's not super important.
Right.
At the provincial level,
Yeah.
the message gets lost because of how important people think that is.
Right.
So right now, we're in this really unique and beautiful space as a region of voters where we have, probably a year and a little bit before the next major election. And there's some things happening in the provincial space as far as like a leadership review coming up in April, and that could change things. But the writing currently indicates that it won't. And therefore, we're a year and a half out where the decisions that we make for this MLA candidate to fill this role is basically like an audition.
Okay.
Like it's basically a risk-free opportunity to try something different and to say, you know what, I'm tired of being told that the ideological divisiveness that has been created in this space of politics over the last, call it 12 years probably, that tells me I have to either care about fiscal responsibility or people isn't real. That's not real, and I reject it. And this by-election gives us a chance to say, you know what, I don't actually care which one of you has the message that promises me what you're going to offer when you make it to office. I care about the voice that best represents me and this region outside of party politics. So I'm running for a party. So the Alberta Party isn't new on the political scene.
No, I've heard of them for sure. Yeah.
We had seats in the legislature previously. We lost the three that we had, and so we're working to kind of grow the brand and grow the party a little bit in the individual constituencies.
Right.
We have this newly, newly elected or newly approved leader in Barry Morishito, who is a long-standing member of the Alberta political scene. He was a mayor in Brooks for years, a city councillor, sat on the AUMA, I believe it's called.
Okay.
So we have this like really incredible voice for the party, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
And it's a new version of politics. So it's basically the party and the board are made up of people who come from every background of political parties. So we have members who sat as PC representatives. We have members who were involved with the provincial NDP. We have members who saw where the direction of the Wild Rose was going and came over. We've been talked about for probably the last decade as the real choice for the moderate voter, but we've really just had a hard time mobilizing and growing that opportunity. And I think a lot of that is just rooted in this like Alberta voter fear of real change. We talk about wanting change all the time, and we're really great at being like, you really let us down. Like you look at Alberta right now, we are generally feeling incredibly disenfranchised by the support we've had and by the leadership in the UCP.
Right.
But I don't necessarily think that means we're all flocking to the NDP either. And
That's
I think
right.
people just want a different choice. Like
That's
people
right.
just want the opportunity to say like, neither of you is doing very well.
Right.
And I expect better and I deserve better.
Right.
And that's part of the reason that I was so excited when the Alberta Party came to me, is because not only do I agree with their position on people-driven policy, but I believe that we need to elect a representative to this MLA role who comes with no strings attached and doesn't have to worry about the infighting and the sludge slinging that is happening at the provincial level between
Right.
the two main parties that have always
Yeah.
had some version of power. Like, we have a real opportunity right now to say, you know what, over the next year and a half, we're going to see if somebody else can do the job that you've been promising and failing to deliver on.
There you go.
And I mean, I love the idea that I could be that person.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, listen, we have a segment here. You know what it is. It's called the Mac City Minute. Tanner has some questions. I don't know what he's going to ask you, but get ready for the Mac City Minute. But it's also brought to you by a sponsor. So that's a new change.
New.
Yeah, Mcmurray Denture Center is a sponsor. And so there may or may not be a video later on in the show highlighting these people, but big shout out to Cram and all his staff for sponsoring this segment. So Tanner, hit her with the Mac City Minute.
All right, question number 1. If Canada used animals to represent political parties like the Americans, what animal do you think would represent your political party?
What?
That's hilarious. That's a Tanner question.
Cool. Okay. What animal do I think would represent? Can we circle back to that one?
Sure. You can do anything you
Perfect.
want. It's yours.
So I saw a segment. So Jen Ferguson had come on the show forever ago, and she nailed the Mac City Minute because she answered in actually a minute, and I wanted so badly for me to accomplish that in this session as well.
If it makes you feel any better, my whole goal is to make sure people don't finish under a minute. I give questions that are hard, so it drags on. So.
Oh, well, great.
Right. Question
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, no kidding.
Question number 2. What is your biggest drive behind being a public servant?
Honestly, for me, everything that I've ever done in my life is about finding an opportunity to influence change for the people that I love and for the people that I care about. And so this space of civil servitude is new to me. It's not something I ever considered. But the more I heard during the municipal campaign, the more I realized that we're hungry for somebody who's willing to have the hard conversations and fight the fights. And I've never been scared of that. So.
Question number 2. Why do you think Fort McMurray is a good home base for your campaign?
Fort McMurray is the heartbeat of the Alberta economy. And I mean, you look at them, right? Like, we just had a speech from the throne talking about how for the first time in years we have this real opportunity to see money coming back into our economy, and the single biggest reason for that, the price of oil. The price of oil drives almost every major decision that we can make as a province, and the people who live here keep that going. It's the most incredible place to become a civil servant and to become a representative.
Question number 3. What is one skill you've learned from being in Fort McMurray that you can transfer to politics?
Collaboration, straight up. There is nothing that can get done here if you hide behind ego or you're influenced by self-serving agendas. So I have learned living and working here that it requires you to have just a deep respect for everybody around you, regardless of whether you're aligned ideologically or not.
Question number 4. What is the biggest difference for you between your last run for public office and this run?
The power of a party. In the municipal election, I was completely by myself. I made every decision. I fumbled every ball on my own account. I was successful by my own account. You know, it was 100% me. And I made a lot of mistakes. And at the provincial level, I have this incredible support of a party who just want nothing more than to see this region's voice lifted up and have rallied behind me in such an amazing way.
And your final first question. If Canadians used animals to represent political parties like the Americans, what do you think would represent your political party?
Such a good question.
It's such a great question,
Thank
but
you.
now I'm like, I can just picture everybody in my party sitting back right now and just being like, please
Don't
say
pick the
something
cat. Don't pick the
ridiculous."
cat. Don't pick the
They
cat.
all have their own votes.
Yeah.
This is where the party has divided.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll tell you where my brain has gone, and it's one of two directions, and I'm gonna explain it. So
Okay.
it definitely won't be a minute, but my brain immediately goes to a mule deer, and the reason for that is because it's the thing I think about when I think about growing up in southern Alberta, because they were everywhere. I believe
Right.
they're mule deer. But the second reason for that is because they seem like such a peaceful, kind, graceful animal until you get too close,
Yeah.
and they've got teeth.
Yeah.
So, I think there's just this like great opportunity to say like, we're not chameleons. We're not like everything that we say from a party perspective is out in front of you.
Right.
But we can also fight, and
Right.
we want to fight on behalf of the Alberta voters. And the other one that I was thinking about was like a hippo, but I really had a hard time like wanting to align myself with a hippo because
That's
they're
right.
actually really ugly. Like I lived in Africa for a little bit. So
They're powerful though.
And
they're
extremely
incredibly
aggressive.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the other reason that I kind of like backed off of it, is because
Right.
I think that I would rather be described as assertive,
Yeah.
and I would rather my party be described as assertive than aggressive, because we see way too much aggression at the political level or at the provincial level these days.
And those have been your 5 questions.
Good question, Tanner. Killing it. Killing it with those questions, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where they come from. So.
I also don't know where they come
Yeah.
from.
Yeah. We're all on the same page here at the Mac City Morning Show.
awesome.
Those questions come from nowhere.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
So when is the election date?
March 15th.
March 15th. So that's when people need to go out and vote.
Yep.
How can you vote for this in regards to, how can you vote?
Yeah, so just like any other major election, there are advanced polls, there are special ballots. So all of the information on how to practice your responsible citizenship and your democratic right to vote is on the Elections Alberta website.
Okay.
You can also reach out to me. I'm perfectly happy to provide you any information that you need about how to get out and vote. I do want to make it like very clear that the riding that I'm running in that is going through a by-election right now is Fort McMurray Lac La Biche, so it's not the entire Fort McMurray City
right.
Centre or north of Fort McMurray.
Right.
We have a seated representative currently. If you're unsure about what riding you're in, Elections Alberta is a really simple tool where you just punch in your postal code and it tells you whether you're going to the polls or not. So
Right. Very cool. Well, listen, that's the end of the show. I know we blew past the 20-minute mark, but that's okay. But at the end of the show, everybody gets a shameless shout-out plug. So you got the lights, camera, and mic. Have fun.
this is my favorite part.
Yeah.
This time it is going to be a bit of a self-aggrandizing, very shameless shout out to myself and to my party. Alberta right now is in this incredibly special space where we have seen rivalry and mudslinging and nastiness and failure in both of the major parties who have sought to represent us and to fight for us and to supposedly make things bigger. And I would hazard to say that Fort McMurray Lac La Biche, Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo, but Fort McMurray Lac La Biche, which is going to the polls here right away, has been so incredibly impacted by a lack of representation. I have the tools. I most assuredly have the voice. I have the party support. And I have the best interests of this region at heart, with no strings attached to any politicking. So I just really want to ask people who are seeing this, people who are voters, to at least spend some time looking into the platform, engage with me, ask questions. This is who I am. The way I've shown up in this interview, 100% of the time, I'm very easy to talk to. I'm available at any given point. And I really just want to connect with you and explain to you why I think I'm the best representative for this election, for this MLA spot.
There we go. Cool. Well, thank you for coming. Feel free to come back again and again and again. And we wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, no worries. So Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo, the rest of the world, that's been another episode of the Mac City Morning Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. It means the world to me. And big shout out to our sponsors, Noral Toyota and Mcmurray Denture Center. Noral being the title sponsor and Mcmurray Denture Center covering the Mac City Minute. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate your help and your support. I hope everybody's having a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Hey guys, Karam here with Mcmurray Denture Center. A lot of people are surprised to hear this, but I'm born and raised here. So is this company. We're local, just like you. Come on in, we'll help you out.
What a deadly old way to end another morning show. Later, boss.
It's so ballistic!
Talk about quenching your ugly thirst.